Okay, I'll bring the meeting to order today, industrial development meeting or development board meeting for December 8th, 2023. I'm going to ask for a motion to accept or amend the agenda.
I make a motion to amend the agenda.
Okay, and a second.
I'll second.
Second.
We need to know what the amendment is.
So, you have something, or do you want me to?
To amend the agenda for public comments.
Okay, we're gonna add public
Oh,
comments.
yes, so you're doing the agenda,
Right.
I'm sorry, not
Maybe
the
not on the minutes.
yeah,
Amend the agenda for public comments
Okay,
yeah,
for those people either in the room or on Zoom
okay,
to give them 2 minutes in speaking time.
okay.
One of them was there.
Yeah, there's, we would like to amend the number 4 item and move that to the end of the meeting because, the main presenter will be a little late.
I move to amend the items on the agenda to have 4 come after number 6.
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded for
Housekeeping details.
housekeeping detail. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That's fair, thank you. So
Maybe
first
a
item
spot
on the,
for-
Let's move that. Hold on, we'll move them.
so the next item on the agenda will be, as we just added, will be public comments. Is there anybody in the room that would like to?
Oh, is that what you did?
Yeah.
Oh,
I said, oh, there's a table like this.
I didn't hear that.
Anybody on Zoom like to comment? Hey,
Because as long as you amend the agenda to allow for it, I'll make a quick comment. I was attending because I think, as you know, the town has applied for IDB funds in the past and based on whatever rules you have, you decided that because I didn't pay the planner that we have, we were ineligible, so it was an agenda item that you were going to look at, I believe, to amend some of that. And I've had discussions with the executive on this a number of times. So I was here to see where your discussion goes in that regard.
We need an identification and
The town.
a location.
I'm sorry, I should have known that. Brian No, Chairman from the town of Alamo.
and thank you, Brian. Any comments or response anyone wish to make to that? Okay, anybody else?
I guess is there going to be something put on the agenda of not today, but later on for this? I mean, he's been here and been here and been here, and we've talked about it. If it's nothing's going to happen, let's just say it and put it to ease. But if we're ever going to do anything on this, or if it's going to be changed, I personally think it should be changed sooner or later before this keeps coming up, not only for the town of Barmero, but I believe the town of Nina was also one that had a question on it before Alan Sheets, if I remember right. So,
But it's not on the agenda right now.
no, I'm saying, but this is public comment, and he asked if anybody had a question on
Right,
that.
and I can say that there is plans to look at the policy and adjust it, bring it up to date on the conditions that we have now, and but we're not ready, we're not prepared to present anything at this time.
yeah, you know, and
It's agenda.
this issue is an agenda item later on.
Right.
That's the one we moved down,
Yeah, okay.
so we will.
Okay. Some of you in agenda.
So we'll be talking later in the meeting about that. Okay, anything else? Next item is approval of minutes in the June 22nd, 23 IDB meeting.
I make a motion to approve the agenda minutes from June 22nd, 2023.
A second,
A second?
motion made in second, any discussion? All in favor? Say
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Next item is the action on election of offers. I think I will turn that over to Gary.
Yes. We, part of the board rules, we we feel like officers on an annual basis. Currently, Rob is the chairman. However, it is now open for, so we'll start with board chairman. Are there any nominations for the board chair?
I nominate Rob Keller for board chair.
Second.
Okay.
Motion made and second. Any other nominations? Any other nominations? Seeing none? All in favor?
I,
Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it.
You abstain?
I'll abstain. You might be a conflict.
You have a right to vote?
you can vote.
Okay, so the next item would be the election of the vice chairman.
And currently that's George Dearborn, just for the.
Any nomination?
I nominate George Dearborn for vice chair.
I second that nomination.
I'll never be late again.
Okay, George has been nominated and seconded. Are there any other nominations? Any other nominations? Hearing none, all in favor of George Dearborn as vice chair?
I,
George. Any opposed?
Get opposed.
Congratulations.
I'll abstain.
Next item, the board discussion and action on pledging of funding balance.
We got one.
Secretary. Yeah, the secretary treasurer.
And currently that's Amber as the county treasurer by position.
No, that seems good.
I nominate Amber.
Papa.
Excited.
Second. Any other nominations?
This is Amber Hoppa, just so we have it for the record.
Sure.
Any other nominations?
Make it easy on us. Just do it for the-
All in favor, Amber, for
Aye.
secretary treasurer.
Aye.
That was passed. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah,
That
I
was
see you're excited.
Well, now I need to know
Now
what I
we're
need to
gonna-
do.
Nothing.
Board discussion action on pledging a funding match not to exceed 25,000 from the IDB Reserve Fund for U.S. International Response and Public Service Commission grant application. And there is an attachment, and I believe we have somebody present. Yeah, sure.
Do I have a presentation?
We have Dan Castlemeyer from US Internet with us today. There have been two prior allocations that the IDB or grants that the IDB had made for US Internet expansion out in the county for broadband. And now they are doing a third application with the Public Service Commission. And so Dan approached me about requesting another $25,000 match. It's really more symbolic in a way. It supports the grant, it helps sell the grant, and as far as I believe part of the scoring criteria on the grant, that it helps US Internet obtain those grants from the Public Service Commission. So, Dan, would you want to fill in the board a little bit
Of course,
on what the plans are?
stand inside here, that's okay with you guys, so, I did print out a small presentation for you guys, I didn't know how many to expect, so, you got 4 copies here, or 5 copies, here you go.
Mhm. Thank you.
Sure. So, as Jerry was saying, we're applying for a Public Service Commission grant for their fiscal year 2023 capital projects. We're looking at expanding our fiber network currently from Winnebago County into Wapaka County. We have several partners, townships, Wapaka County, and other entities that are involved in this, and we're looking at expanding our network by 131 miles to service about 26 or 2,700 locations in like the Fremonts, Caledonia, Town of Dale, Reedfield area. And then also, portions of Winnebago County, Larson, Boom Bay, Zidell, Town of Wolf River, so. First page on your packet here just shows you who US Internet is. We were founded in '95 in Minneapolis. Kurt and Travis, two gentlemen started it over there. They've got today they're operating about 60,000 subscribers. They're in front of about 130,000 households. They also operate a data center, internet exchange, and we're one of the first companies in the country to offer 10 gig to homes. So what makes USI a little bit different than other providers is our network design. Our network is 100% underground. It's 100% fiber optic. Everything that we do is symmetrical for speeds. So it's your download is same as your upload speed. And we're also, you know, our number one focus is customer service. And we have no contracts, no data limits, no install fees. So we're really trying to make this as easy as possible for everybody to hook up to in the everybody that we pass. So, and you know, as far as our pricing goes, it's $50, $60 or $70, 30, 50, or 30, 60 or 70. Sorry, 50, 60 or $70 for 300, 500 or 1,000. So cost effective, really no hooks into the customer. Your fifth sheet on here is our current map. So you guys in the past have pledged 2 matching grants of $25,000 each. We've actually applied 3 times so far. We've been successful in 3 out of 3 grant applications. This will be our 4th application. If you look at the map here, you've got a blue area. It's our first application area. Orange was the second. The green was the third. And our 4th that we're talking about today is the white area north of town of Winchester there. So
Are these red lines in here?
21.
Are they currently already?
So you're in agreement?
so on well, I kind of forgot I sent you those pictures, to be honest. So those lines in the actual polygons there, those are our proposed routes. So that's where we're putting our fiber cable. That's the actual conduit routes that we'll be taking through those individual areas. I actually have a little bit more of a detailed map on that. So this actually breaks down our overall application. Our presentation today is really focused on the Winnebago County benefits. The packet I just handed you here is our actual overall application. So this goes into each individual of the 9 service areas that we were looking at here. And that breaks that down further, but as far as what that looks like in the field, you have remote cabinets all the way around.
Those cabinets, that could be just kitchen cabinets.
Yep, that houses all of our electronics there, so. If a neighborhood has whatever 100 houses in it, there's 100 fibers going into that neighborhood, and all 100 of those fibers dead end back to that cabinet into an electronically managed switch. So it's so that way we can essentially guarantee our speeds. If anybody has you know, cable company at home, everybody gets home at 5 o'clock, gets on the internet, your speeds slow way down because everybody's drawing on the same pipe. How they do it today is they run one cable into a neighborhood, they split those splits and then, you know, split the splits, right? But we're actually going dedicated fiber to every single house. So the infrastructure that we're installing today could really realistically do like 400 gig to every single house, but you don't even have a computer that can draw 400 gigs. So this is really set up for the future. This is set up for years and years down the road where we can just continue to upgrade our electronics on both sides and not need to redo any construction out in the field. It's kind of a one-time go through.
May I ask,
Please.
how many fiber ends would be consistent in one cable, a fiber cable? And the
So it's,
largest that you have going into town.
so every house gets 2 fibers up to the house. We're only using 1 today, but the other one's just a spare. The cable, and then from there it scales up, you know, kind of like back to the main trunks, right? So like leaving those cabinets, there will be, that cable's probably got 1,700 fibers in one, yeah, individual fibers in that cable, or 864 of them. It's all in multiples of 12, but it's so, but the cables themselves, like that 1,728 is really only like 0.6 inches-ish in diameter, so something along those lines. It's kind of cool, technology at the end of the day, yeah, but. So it's,
That answers my question.
yep.
So,
So,
Chair, the question on the, I mean, I see you're right next to near 76.
Yep.
And we just extended cable to the Springfield School for the village, so we spent a lot of money putting cable as well. Obviously, we can't allow by state statute residents to hook up to that, but
sure,
they gonna be doing the interconnection, with the systems, where's your,
yeah, I'd love to, yeah.
where's your connection now to the internet, so,
Today,
'cause we're linking everything together, so.
yeah, so it's kind of like a two-part answer. So there is a big fiber cable that was constructed between Green Bay and Milwaukee. Maybe 7 or 8 years ago, and we're interconnecting with that cable today. So our as of today, our connection is at 76 and 41. That's our cabinet. And if you kind of look at our map there, the blue, orange, and green, we're making a ring around the lake
Real
as we come
close.
back. Yeah, so at the end of 24, we'll be passing through the town of Omro and connecting at 9th Avenue and 41. And then we'll have a ring all the way around that lake with about.
Are you addressing the villages and the office, the public facilities?
Or trying to connect as many people as possible. So if you guys have entities or, whatever that wanted to be hooked up, we'd love to do that.
Well, we have to do that now with all our fiber.
So we're working with the Winnebago County School District right now. We hooked up their, they have a facility out in the woods off of Gino Road, just north of Omro. We hooked them up. And then they're in a contract right now with Spectrum, I think, for another year or so, but we're in that process of getting a contract to hook up
Okay.
all of the schools in the past.
Yeah, we've looked at, we're connected to the new high school and we're gonna link to the south as well, so we're
Okay.
actually Oshkosh as well.
Yeah, if there's any facilities out there that you guys want hooked up and then.
Well, again, unfortunately, state statutes limit us is what we can do, but
Sure.
whether we can do an interconnect, I'm not sure.
Well, so the other thing that we're doing, aside from running extra fibers everywhere, we're actually running an extra conduit or two as well. So,
Oh, yeah.
to save you guys some money, if
That's
you want to
wise.
buy an extra conduit,
Sure.
we could save you guys some money that way
Okay.
too. But
We have to spend our own money for that.
Yeah.
All
So, yeah,
There's a need.
our current map there is a similar map of the overall application area. Everything that we do is 100% underground. We're creating an entire ducting system throughout the neighborhoods. So we're instead of putting those metal pedestals at every other lot line or whatever, we actually have a multi-cell conduit. So a bunch of little pipes inside of a bigger pipe. We directional drill that down the roads in the right of way. In front of each house, whoever signs up, we don't build this to every single house. It's allocated for every single house if everybody wanted to sign up, but it's not. If you don't sign up for it at your house, I'm not going on your property to do this. It's whoever wants it gets it. So in front of that house, we'll dig down a small hole. We'll find that big conduit, cut the blue duct up to your house, turn the blue duct to your house, and then plow in a small duct from that intersection up to the house, bury that back out by the street, and then it's a complete underground ducting system back to a flush vault at the end of the street.
And do you charge the customer?
Nope, that construction process, that's no install fee at all. We cover 100% of that. So there's no cost to get onto the service once you want to do it. It's just a monthly fee to actually have the internet.
These are for profit organizations. so.
Try to keep the
We
lights
can't, we
on.
can't do that. We love to, but we can't.
If you flip to page 12, this is the actual overall application. I've broken it down into 9 areas. 3 of them are within Winnebago County, blue, orange, and green. Really, it's Larson, town of Winchester, and Cito, Wolf River, Boom Bay. Page 13 would be the kind of just a zoomed in version of each one of these areas. So area 1, town of Larson, total cost is about $1.3 million. It's 18 miles of new construction. It'll serve approximately 318 locations within that area. Area 2, $545,000, 8 miles of new construction, serves 96 locations. In area 3, it's $1.8 million, 26 miles of construction, serving 491 locations. There's actually another 150 locations on top of that in area 3. So it's really about like 640-ish. I did not include those other 150 in this application. I'll we have fibers allocated for those areas. But those were a couple of roads right along Boom Bay that are 100% owned by the residents themselves. I have to get an easement from every single person to go down that road to cross your property to serve, to his. So for the purpose of the application, I didn't want to include that in there, but we want to service the houses, so we're absolutely gonna, work our way down there. But we have a performance period to build it, and if for some reason you decide I can't cross your property, I'm not fulfilling the grant then, so it was kind of a gray area, so we'll look to serve them, but didn't include that. So in total, about 1,100 homes passed for Winnebago County. The project is $3.7 million. We're estimating a 50% take rate, so our cost per customer passed is about $6,800. If you look at the metrics on the bottom here, this is where all those costs go. So total customer or by area, so total customers, constructing the conduit and vault network, fiber cable and splicing, customer drops and acquisition, remote cabinets and electronics, and then any engineering and permitting costs we've got, bring our totals at the end there. So overall, like I said, there was 9 areas. The project overall is $10.2 million. We've asked for 4.4 from the Public Service Commission. We've got Waupaca County, town of Caledonia, town of Fremont, the village of Fremont, and town of Wolf River. And collectively, they've brought 581 minus 25 that you guys brought in. So what is that, 550? Terrible, man, 556. Okay, so yeah, so that's what the other entities have brought. We're asking for 25,000 in matching from you guys. It's in the application itself. It's a metric based application, right? So there's a grading scale at the end of this that's how many entities do you have involved in this, what areas are you serving, and it's out of 100 points, and there's 10 lines. You get 10 points for each one of those lines as you cross them off. So that's why we're asking for that. Yeah, and then if you look at the last page of that other second packet I handed out, that's where the money is allocated. So you've got breakdown even further of dollars, and then the entities that are bringing the dollars. The total we brought US Internet brought in 5.2 million, 581,000, including your 25 from the other entities, and then asking the state for approximately 4.4.
So, Mr. Chair, so no other companies are proposing to do, I mean, like the TDS is expanding dramatically, and obviously Spectrum is it's beyond their area, but.
They have, there's a very small portion, it's in Waupaca County of area 7 or 8, like just 1 or 2 roads where they got RDOF funds, rural development of fiber, whatever it was, to come in and build like 2 or 3 roads, but it wasn't in Winnebago County, and they're covered such a small portion.
I know the reason for this is they're just, nobody would provide the service unless there was some grants to do it, so.
Right.
This part of it's wireless, not fiber.
Spectrum was doing fiber, but but there was a wireless project out there as well.
That's not good as well. Okay. Thanks.
Okay, any other questions? Discussion, is there a motion?
I'll put it on the table to go ahead and pledge for funding to match not to exceed $25,000 from the IDB board, Wisconsin Public Service Commission grant application.
Second.
Now we need discussion.
Yeah, one quick one. Do you envision any additional requests for funds in the future? Can't say.
The state was awarded $1.1 billion, and that's all being administered by the Public Service Commission. So far, they have no outlay of how that cash is gonna be distributed, but there's, there's a lot of money to be funded for programs like this, so yeah, we'll continue to
Okay.
expand into other areas for sure. And that's the other part of this network, is it's completely scalable, so all you have to do is just drop another cabinet with more brains in it, and you have the exact same level of service to the next area, so we can continue to build on this.
John?
I just wanna thank you for your efforts to getting fiber to where fiber doesn't exist.
Sure.
And I really appreciate that. So,
Well,
yeah, thank you.
Well. We've spent all money. That's right. That's right.
So there's a motion to discuss it on the table.
It's needed.
Any further discussion? I would like to make a motion to approve the $25,000.
Mine actually was a motion. I just made the motion, so it can be discussed, but mine actually was a motion.
Yeah, it is. I think it was right.
Okay, putting it on the table means we're doing,
So
okay.
then,
Yeah.
So here's a motion on table to approve $25,000.
And
we
more
have a
second.
So any other discussion? No. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
thank you guys, appreciate it.
We have the next item on the agenda was the board discussion on Winnebago County. That was moved to the end, but I see Mr. Damer is here. Can we move that back to where it was? No.
I would say no, because we've already amended it.
Yeah, that'd be-
All right, so that'll have to wait. Next item is board review and approval of the 2023 and 2024 COVID-19 rapid recovery loan program contracts with Greater Oshkosh Economic Development Corporation.
I'll pick that one. Chairman. This is an annual contract. GoEDC has been managing the COVID loan program that the IDB got involved in back in 2020 with the pandemic. So we've been working closely with GoEDC on this. Eventually a contract was established with GoEDC to basically pay for their administrative costs to manage this program. The program is closed down. The program was closed down back in April of 2022, I think. And now there's loans being paid back, and the program is basically set to end at the end of at some point next year. So, but there's a contract, and the board never did address the renewal of the contract in 2023. And there's also the contract in 2024, so that's what's before you. Any questions, any?
Don't really understand what you're saying.
Okay, well,
Start over.
yeah, the COVID loan program, for the program, that the board got involved in, contributed some money for it. And, GoEDC managed that program, and basically, I don't know, Tricia, it was what, 37 roughly loans that
Those
were
are small ones.
Yeah.
small loans.
we did send those
small
back.
businesses.
They were,
Yeah.
I think we had over 34 come to this program.
Yeah.
And the total dollar amount was over $1 million. We've returned most of those funds. We're no longer accepting new applications. We're currently just managing the servicing portion as we're accepting payments.
Right.
And like Jerry said, we are scheduled to have all the loans be paid off by the end of 2024. So we had a contract in 2021 to just basically pay, it's mostly accounting fees. This is going to, it's like 100% accounting fees
Right.
for our administration of the program. We didn't do it in 2022 or 23, so
Well, yeah, we did it in 2022, but.
I think we did 2021. I think we missed last year. Yeah, that's on me though, because I didn't ask for that there, so. But yeah, so this should basically just cover us to the end of the program, which is set to be completely wrapped up in 2024. Like I said, mostly accounting fees.
The money, there was one that came back, that's
Yeah.
rules where does it go?
It just goes back into the IDB's fund.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I see. Sure, that's fine.
And,
Makes sense.
GoEDC is paid back. a good portion of it already. It's primarily just what's left over
Yeah,
to be paid back, so,
they're managing it.
and there really was only, I think, one loan that really is up in the air as far as, the ability to collect it. It's, actually a group of attorneys, but
Let's see.
But, they've been working on it and, where that goes, and there's still some dollars outstanding on that one that, the firm broke off. Long story, but really, virtually, all the rest of them have, are being paid back and, well,
Even the attorneys made some attempts to pay. things
yeah,
back.
they paid some back and not all of it.
You got another? I'm sorry.
Yeah,
The
so,
the woman attorney, yeah, of course.
yeah,
So we need a motion to approve the new contract.
yeah, the renewal of the contract for 23 and 24.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you.
Second,
Motion made and second. Any other discussion?
I have a discussion. I know this initial loan process for small business was because of COVID. And now we're seeing an economy where a lot of small businesses are struggling again. And the economic forecast not look good for smaller businesses. And I just want everybody to keep that in mind while we're looking at how do we get a revolving loan fund and how we get these things out there, that even though this is going to 23 and 24, and this is basically focused on just collecting those payments back on those loans, that in the future, we might want to consider something for our small businesses that are struggling mightily right now. But also, I think your success rates has proved that you vetted these loans very well. Very well, so.
Any other discussion? Motion to approve the Greater Akron Development Corporation contract for the period to 2024. Our job ends prior to the end of the year.
24.
Yeah, 2023 and
2023 and 24.
To be clear, two separate contracts, right?
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried, thank you. Review and discuss the 2024 IDB budget. Carried.
Yes, that should be in your packet, just wanted to quickly go through, the budget for 2024. And again, most of you most of you know that the county board budget process, just completed, last week, and, the IDB was awarded, as part of the county board budget, $170,000 for its annual grant. Essentially a grant that's, provided to the IDB from the county board. Yeah, the real revenue for this cost center is really two things, interest that are on the funds that are in the IDB funds, and the grant that comes from, awarded from the county board at budget time, which is the $107,000. So,
Go over the money that was there and.
yeah.
And the interest.
Yes, there are, whatever dollars are left over on an annual basis doesn't roll over into the IDB fund. It stays with the IDB.
Right.
So that fund builds, and that fund is up to almost $2.9 million. Okay. And then there are a few line items related to the budget. There's some travel things primarily for me to run around and go to meetings. on economic development, on behalf of the IDB. There's some office supplies. Some small numbers there for office supplies, and, you know, again, the operating grants are has traditionally been the IDB's, grant program, for local government, economic development program.
You take a percentage of that money that is out there and you label it for a given year's grants, like this 172,542, which is an operating grant that you split up for all of the towns or villages.
That's primary, that's probably 95% of the things, that's where that money goes, yes.
And so every year you take a certain percentage of, say, the money that is accumulated over the past years and interest and whatever, and you say, okay, that's what we're gonna use.
No, those dollars are at the discretion of the IDB, but they're not directly involved in the operating grant, the annual operating grants. It's really based on the dollars that are awarded from the county board for the IDB. Those are used for the grant. There has been occasions where the IDB has, for instance, with Dan Kassenmeyer just being in here, that $25,000 match will come from funds you're talking about, which are just the rollover funds that build up over the years.
It's not something that.
Yeah, that is separate from, that would be separate from these operating grants. At least it traditionally has been, and there's been other projects where the IDB is invested in. There's a couple things that Go EDC had in the past, et cetera. There's projects that come up in the middle of the year and they're looking for some extra funding to make it happen. So they'll come to the IDB and request some funds to, for that project. And those dollars are typically taken out of the IDB's reserves or reserve balance.
The reserve balance is what continually
Yes,
rolls over.
Yes.
And rolls over.
mhm, yes, correct.
Does that show up in
Not in this, it's something that, we could certainly, get a report from our county finance department on,
what your reserve?
yeah,
is?
what that,
I think that would be, more transparent.
the accounting on that.
We've done that before.
Yeah, I think there's been a few times in the past we've done that, yes. But yeah, we can certainly get that and present it to the board here, sure,
So that it's part of the financial.
Yeah.
As you
yes,
roll forward.
yes,
I think that would be something we want to see.
It's basically the capital, funds, not the operation funds.
yeah, I mean, it's,
Well, wouldn't you want to see both?
Yes.
yeah, I mean,
You gotta see
Yeah.
everything it has to do.
yeah, so we can, yeah, I can certainly
Let's see it,
have that done, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, nice to see it.
Any other questions, discussions for Jerry? Go ahead.
Yeah, I had Casey here, he is intern in the county executive's office. Do a look back the last 5 years of allocations that we've done. And what communities got what dollars. I've also talked with the county executive fond-du-lac, Sam Kaufman. And Tom Romanesco is county administrator at Calumet. As far as the ITBAC, both of them are looking to pull out of their donation as well. And one thing I want us to remember is a lot of these dollars that we do, these are tax levy dollars that are coming in appropriated by the board. So this is not interest. And as tax dollars are getting tighter, I think those two, OCVB especially, and I've had conversations with Amy about it. They get funding from other sources as well, and room taxes, and we have more hotels going up and those rates are going up. They're not going to implode if they don't get that 10,000. And it back the same thing. We have other people that promote tourism, in our counties and our municipalities. So it's coming to a point where we've given those two entities more in the past 5 years than the Amro area, who's about to go through a whole 21 corridor redo. You know, so when we're looking at this economic development, is there a way for this board to look at it to be more intentional with some of that stuff? When we have these things come through, versus just allocating per capita, and whatever the wish of the board is, the wish of the board. I just would like to have that conversation. Because when I look at two projects that are coming up in the county specifically, versus the allocations, how we do it, that would be the 21 corridor, and that would be the interchange between 76 and George, is that 110 or 10 over there?
76, and then, that'd be, yeah.
40.
Yeah,
Yeah,
45.
45, yeah, it's 45 now. And,
well, I think 10 is where they wanna
And 10.
develop a little bit, because the intersection before that, is,
That's Clayton.
right, the intersection before that is,
We're helping
is,
Clayton.
right, and I think I would like us to look a little bit more of those, in those areas, project-based, at least offer that up for discussion. You know, when I think of, town of Amro, I see, Brian's here. You know, we follow our rules, and if you don't have professional staff and this whole thing that we should follow or change the rules. But when we have these areas in the county that need a little extra help in a certain specific point of time, we have no mechanism to focus on that. So I just wanted to have that up for discussion. I want us to consider, if we also, and it is my will to pull out of ITBEC, and I know they've done some good things. And it's also would be my ask to not fund that or the Oshkosh.
Can I
Yeah.
interrupt for a second?
Sure, yeah.
You know, we were talking about the budget, and we were talking about the $170,000 grant.
Mhm.
You're kind of getting into the next item.
Right.
Well, is that what we're talking about?
They
6 or?
changed the order.
Oh, you changed the order.
was changed.
Yeah, because for you.
We were waiting.
Right.
We're not doing that yet.
Okay, so this is 6.
So
All right.
we're on 6.
I apologize.
And
And then
any
we'll
more
put 4
discussion
after
on
6.
6?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome. Any more discussion on 6?
No,
Okay, so we're just a review and a discussion, with
Yeah.
a motion. We can, please, Mr. Dane will continue.
All right,
We're on number.
thank you.
Four discussion of
You vote on 6?
per capita income
No,
grant.
it's actually just a
Just
discussion.
information.
Yeah.
do we not have an approval of the?
No,
No, we don't.
That was done to the board.
Just gonna go.
No approval on
Everybody
the
has
budget.
this?
We're just.
Got
So
it.
now, please, John.
All right, so, and Casey worked with Jerry on, putting this, proposal. Everybody has that in the packets where all the municipalities are for the last 5 years.
yeah, there's a.
There's a pie chart and there's.
Yep,
Yeah, a
chat,
couple
yeah.
of pie charts, the tables.
yep, based on population, except, George, I would say ITBEC or OCB,
Yeah.
OCBB, right? So when we're looking at this, that's more money that can go toward those municipalities or more money that can go toward a project. When we're doing this, how do we help support Go EDC? How do we help support the chambers? How do we get more involved with the Fox Cities Chamber or any kind of Fox Cities economic entity up there? How do we do more intentional, I guess, granting of these dollars based on the needs in our county? Are we willing to look at that? And that is my pitch. I'm done.
Yeah, if you do, find that report. I guess I'll just hit a couple of the highlights in it. It's,
Gary, do you want me to put it up on the screen?
oh, yeah,
Yeah,
you're able
great.
to, sure,
Download it.
yeah.
Everybody on the same page.
Just share it so people in Zoom can see as well. Is that the page you want?
Yeah. Okay, you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, really the first table, you can see up there, but in your packet. The total funding, allocations that have been made, you can see, the city of Oshkosh received, received the most all the way down to the town of Winchester, or excuse me, town of Nephew-Uskin. At the bottom, and yes. And again, this program has always been based on, it's per capita, it's based on population, so.
30+ years.
So it's understandable, from top to bottom, it's really based, it's more of a population based. Grant program. And on an annual basis, each one of these communities that are awarded these dollars have the ability to reallocate them to other areas if they have an economic reason to do so. For instance, a lot of the towns allocate their dollars to Go EDC because they feel there's a benefit overall to to their towns and their citizens that Go EDC provides economic development services for them. So they'll reallocate it to Go EDC. The city of Oshkosh itself has traditionally been reallocating their dollars to Go EDC, for instance. So the city doesn't really use themselves, they reallocate that for to Go EDC for economic development. That's just an example. The pie chart on the very next page kind of just lays that out. Over the years, what's that? Excuse me, folks. You'll see in the little chart way up on top that the total allocations that the IDB over the last 5 years, the IDB has granted out a little over $1 million, $1,011,000 over just the last 5 years. The direct recipients received $395,000. And then the reallocated funds, and these again are the ones from generally the towns deciding to send their monies on to, for instance, Go EDC or City of Amarillo or
Adjacent community.
in adjacent communities. So a little over half of the dollars have been reallocated. The $511,000. So again, that's generally a lot of the towns reallocating their funds, and that's really when the IDB set up its policies back in 2012. That's really was how the program was designed. It was designed to allow the local towns to say, we're better off reallocating these dollars to the city of Neenah because we're right next to the city of Neenah and they provide economic development services and it benefits our residents by creating jobs and so forth. Just an example. So over half of the dollars have been reallocated. Again, the direct recipients are the communities that, that indicated right up front, we want to use the dollars for a project, for economic development of communities. And typically, those direct recipients have been, the city of Neenah, city of Menasha, the bigger communities, and city of Amro and the village of Winnebago. It's really been those communities that have decided they wanted to use their dollars up front and wanted the dollars sent directly to them by the IDB. There's also, on the bottom here, the other category, ITBEC and the Oshkosh Convention Bureau, the IDB did provide allocations to those organizations too over time, over the last 5 years. So a little over $100,000 to those organizations for their primarily tourism activities. So that's it for that. On the third page, you'll see another pie chart. This is really a breakdown of the, geographically where the dollars went. So really about roughly 70% of these dollars have gone to incorporated communities. And exactly. So, and then a little over $190,000 have gone to unincorporated in the town areas. And then another little over 100,000 for the ITBEC and Oshkosh Convention Bureau. So you can see, again, it's the dollars are being directed really to the population centers where the primary economic development activities were occurring. So again, it really was working as the program was designed. However, the unincorporated areas were, the amount of investment going on in those areas was limited.
Jerry, Elizabeth has her hand raised.
Oh, okay.
Thank you. Jerry, I just had a question because as I recall, the city of Oshkosh is also a municipality that reallocates, correct? So that $511,000 figure also includes the city of Oshkosh. Is that correct?
You are correct.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's coming, what they allocate to is an arm of the
Yeah.
city of Oshkosh.
Yeah, right. So any other questions at this point?
This. Everybody's. I like this.
Yeah, yeah, I think everyone's
Yeah,
got that. And then, on the last page, or on this page here, this chart, just to finish up here quick. You'll see where the actual communities or economic development organizations that have actually received funds, their actual recipient funds,
Yeah.
over the last 5 years. It starts from Future Neenah, which is their downtown economic development group in downtown Neenah. All the way to, you'll see Go EDC on the bottom there with a little over $447,000. So you'll see, how that money was distributed over the last 5 years. These are the actual entities that received dollars. Whether the towns allocated those dollars or the city of Oshkosh reallocated those dollars. That's or they were direct recipients as well. So you can see the breakdown over time.
Is Go EDC reallocating those dollars into these funds or?
No, it's sort of yeah, it's typically the towns and the city of Oshkosh. It's for Go EDC itself, it was some unincorporated towns. And the city of Oshkosh have allocated their shares to Go EDC. for economic development purposes.
Yeah, Tricia, do you mind if I ask a question to Tricia? All right, as I've been watching Go EDC, you've been doing a lot more out in some of the rural areas. What do you see of the needs that way?
Well, a lot of different things, I guess. So, I mean, I think that in our rural areas, we especially need to think, some forward thinking planning when it comes to our housing initiatives, how we're helping. We can't grow in these areas. It's a universal problem, but especially in rural areas, we can't grow jobs and help places for people to live. But then also just some of that assistance. A lot of times what we're doing in those communities is working with the businesses there to access assistance that they can't access otherwise. Especially, we're talking about these unincorporated areas that don't have a full-time staff person. They don't know how to access state benefits. USDA benefits, things like that, that would easily come to a business that can help them be more successful, but don't have direct access to them. So, I mean, I think that's part of it. And then we also have to talk about some of that future planning of how we're gonna utilize our land and, what is going to work for housing, industrial, different aspects that we can grow. Because most of our urban centers are to the edge of their development areas. So we're gonna have to be working within our rural areas if we're looking for some additional industrial expansion.
Not really.
So help me out here. What
Dynamics.
municipalities are in Go EDC?
Right now, I can tell you who we submitted to last year. I haven't.
Yeah, go ahead, otherwise.
So last year, we were supported by City of Oshkosh, Town of Algoma, Town of Blackwood, Town of Nephi, Town of Nepeaskin. Town of Oshkosh was a partial support. They split their support. Town of Coigan, Town of Rushford also split their support. Town of Utica, Town of Inland, Town of Winnecounty, Town of Winchester, and Town of Wolf River.
Answer your question?
It does. And just as I'm comparing the charts here, so City of Oshkosh was $358,112. And then if I go to the funding source, that amount plus the additional municipalities you talked about gets me to the $447,472.
Right.
Okay, all right,
Yeah.
thank you. Just trying to
Sure.
make sure the math adds up for me.
Yeah.
What does all this tell us?
Well,
I think John has some idea.
what's the plan here, guys?
Yeah, I mean,
I'm hearing interesting things.
I think the plan is to know exactly what our challenges are, George, to answer your question, and future growth and, what,
But I'm a little unclear here. Is the goal to have all the growth occur in the rural areas? What, I'm not
No.
clear. Okay.
No.
What are we talking about here?
I think that the goal is to, when we have some of those areas that maybe need a little bit of a help on housing, I think is a good topic. Because
How are
we
you
need,
gonna do that?
right, correct. How are we gonna do it? And
The
Alex,
large communities can't do it. How can the smaller communities do it?
Well-
It's a big deal.
well, and that is a question when we're allocating, the amount of money that we're allocating for tourism, is that really the bellywig of this commission or what we're here for? IDB is interesting, by the way. I find it fascinating over the history. When Jerry was telling me it was the 80s, when solid waste.
Well, the 90s.
The 90s?
Yeah.
That, George,
I went to that meeting.
mind blowing, by the way. So,
I was there.
right, and we did this at that time, and that was because interest rates were through the roof. So we offered some prime rates to make sure that we continued
Right.
economic growth, and that could be on the horizon. And government takes a long time to set up, so I just wanted to have the conversation.
Yeah.
I just wanted to look at some of the options that we've done in the past, and when we're looking at certain projects like the 21 corridor, which.
But-
Right,
Is that IDBG funds, that's the source you want to use to fund road project? I'm trying to figure out what you're thinking about.
no, but maybe some of the other things around that, maybe some of the subdivisions that spur off of that where housing could go, is there some kind of thing?
So use the money to subsidize subdivisions?
Maybe,
Okay, that's a tough one.
or maybe to make sure
We've
that
talked about that.
there's fiber there,
Yeah.
what's the infrastructure there that they would need?
But Okay. I'm a little-
I mean, at the end of the day, it's all tax levy that we're talking about.
Yeah, right.
Are we thinking about, instead of allocating a per capita basis to each county or each town, each municipality, a different way to allocate money for economic development? Is that what we're talking about?
I don't know. That's what I want the group to discuss. And I don't feel comfortable leading that discussion. I feel
No, I
comfortable posing that question to this commission.
Yeah, yes, from our side, we're a, newly incorporated town, a village, used to be a township.
Yep.
I'm watching the city of Appleton, the city of Needham, city of Oshkosh redevelop their downtowns with housing, rental housing, reconverting some of their office buildings. We have a similar problem in some of our office buildings. Again, the challenge is, do you have control of it? We don't in this case, they're rental units, so. But unfortunately, those new rental units are market rate, they're $2,000+ a month. Our single family housing now is $450,000 a unit. We're working with Habitat to try to create some additional housing that way.
Yep.
We're looking at some higher densities in some area, but can you do that in some of the rural areas? I think it's unlikely, but would they be willing to do that? I've not seen that, but I'm just kind of puzzled.
Well, and I think
What
they
can you
are.
do?
I think some of those conversations we're having, we're people are interested in looking back at what we did after World War II. We had all these vets come back and we built 700 square foot houses and they're eventually able to add on. We didn't have to have curb and gutter around every parking lot. We didn't have to have a sidewalk on both sides of the street. So there are all kinds of things that we've changed and things that we need to look at. Cause you're right. That challenge is everywhere. $250 a square foot average in the state of Wisconsin to build a house right now.
Elizabeth has her hand raised, just so you know.
Okay,
Thank you. Thank you. If I just wanted to make a couple of comments on this general topic, and I'm all for relooking at how we do things, because just because we did things a certain way in the past doesn't mean that that's the way that we should keep doing them. But I would say a couple of things, having run an economic development organization, I know that this is an important part of funding and something that the organization relies on. And particularly if it's going to be variable over years, it makes it really hard to budget. So that's a challenge. I think funding projects could be a good thing for us to do, but we would have to have criteria around that and be very clear about what it is that we were and weren't going to do. My understanding is, the reason why we kind of set up the per capita the way that we did was because the local communities have kind of the best bead on what it is that's going on there and how they want to allocate their money and what it is that they want to support. So I'm not sure what kind of expertise that we all collectively have to make some of those decisions, but I think that maybe there's a balance here that we could reach where we're still providing, support to those organizations that we have in the past, but maybe having some kind of pot of money for special projects. And I'll note two things about that. I'm the chair of the CVB board right now, but I would be in favor of not providing the funding from IDB to them, because we really don't need it. It's that really is true. And there are many organizations that support tourism. And is that really where we want our money to go? I think that's a valid question. So there's that. And the CVB also, we have, all of our base funding, but we have special pots of money for certain projects as well. And I think that is a valid idea and something that we could discuss. But again, I think there needs to be some kind of balance.
Thank you, John.
And I think Elizabeth just hit the nail on the head a little bit, and some of it is a lot of these they're allocating these money to some of these economic development corporations anyways. Some of them are. And maybe that's a possibility. I don't know. I definitely don't want to get into another grant deciding program. That is not where I want to get to. It's just how do we get more intentional with this? How do we take a look at it again? Will there be a time if interest rates go through the roof that we may have to see if we want to repeat history again, so that we don't flatline or tank in Winnebago County?
Tom, you had something?
Yes, I was just wondering, I think maybe that's something that we should be looking at. We've got a lot of these townships that are dividing back their money and giving it here and there, whatever, because they don't have that staff. And that's a big thing. Do we have to say they have to have the staff, or do we let these townships go ahead and, maybe they're gonna have to go ahead and request it somehow and say, well, what they're going to use it for, whether it be a road that has to be done, I'm gonna say 21, they just had 3 fatal accidents here last week, so, or whatever, something like that, or but to go ahead and get the staff all that we're asking these townships and that to get to, there's just no way they can afford them. They take all the money that we're giving these townships to go ahead to get this staff, and so what are they gonna have left? It isn't worthwhile for them. So maybe that's something that we should be looking at.
But the counter to that is, and we went through this before and looking at the policy, we had some townships that want to put up signs and things like that, that seem totally inappropriate from an economic development standpoint. So I still think we need rules and regulations so they can allocate their funds.
Yeah, the IDB back in 2012, when
Yours
it,
get
when
pretty
it,
wild.
when it redid its policies
Yeah.
for this, and I'm just simply giving you facts about background, but and why the IDB, got to where they are on this, they saw a lot of these requests from, not a lot, but some, I shouldn't use the word a lot. It was some requests that really got to be questionable with, especially from the smaller communities.
Trying to do a parking lot.
There's the one that helped paint lines on a parking lot. There was
Remember that?
there was all of these
That's just operation.
requests, because they saw the money there.
Yeah.
And,
Like ARPA.
yeah,
Exact
same thing.
yeah, so the IDB got it, we had a lot of discussions back, in the early 2011, 2012 timeframe. And the IDB came down with some policies to kind of put some better boundaries on this program. And so now over the last, 11, 12 years, we've been doing it the way we've been doing it, and we went over that report and the pie charts, and we see how the money is being allocated. Now it's really, is that working? And that's where we are, I think. Is there a way we can adjust some of the policies to, make them more flexible or make them, change the way we're allocating the dollars so they can, as John is looking at, to try to get the dollars targeted where the real, where we really need to have some economic development. Is that how we redirect these dollars? So it's not an easy answer. There's a limited amount of dollars for the most part.
Right.
And how those dollars are allocated, again, it's gonna end up with this board, but, and we're discussing. So I just wanted to sort of give you a little.
I get it.
I guess the two questions, so I can understand this a little better, to both Tom and to George. Tom, how is your relationship with GoEDC? Do they help you with some of these things? And George, to you,
We don't work with them. I mean, they're.
how is your relationship with the chamber of Fox Valley
We work with
Chamber?
them all the time, so, yeah.
Okay,
We've not allocated funding recently, but we also
Sure.
have economic development partnership, and we do most of ours locally, and then again, we've extended utilities into the town of Clayton to help them grow as well. So we're doing those partnerships right now, so. My concern is, and I get it all, but it's pretty hard to drop to put a lot of funding into a housing development, a low-cost housing development in a township that doesn't really have the capability to provide the services. Are the roads gonna be adequate? You can have proper fire protection, police protection. You can't really do that. That's why it's not happening. If you wanna live out in a rural area, a high density, rural area that you can't get a policeman to come, you have to call the county to do it. Probably not. I don't think the county wants to do that either. Sheriff won't like that either. He's already given the village and Nina the two expressways, so we have to deal with those.
I've been
Stepped
waiting
away.
right.
for quite a while.
Go ahead, go ahead.
Growth is a tough thing to begin with. When you're talking about growth, to get to a megaliopolis type of growth. And we're looking for Milwaukee to grow into Oshkosh, to grow into Appleton, to grow into Green Bay. All of that expands outward from the municipality level. It doesn't grow inward from the need to, have everybody grouped together, or whether to building houses or whatever. I lived through a track building of the return of the Second World War veterans and whatever else. That track building came in and decimated land and threw things out like tabletop basements. In other words, everything was built on a slab. And of course, after you live in that, you want to live in something with a basement or whatever. That type of growth, whatever we're trying to look for, okay, and build, has to be developed, as George said, from the grassroots, the infrastructure and everything first, before you can throw something out there. We were looking at condos behind my house a couple of years ago, and the amount of money that they were going to want to pull off of those condos in order to make it work out for them. It was like $1,600 a month. People wouldn't have lived for that. But yet they wanted to put that in there, and they were going to put it on slabs because they happened to have stone, 4 feet down. Okay. Those kind of things George looks at, and he's,
By stone, you mean bedrock?
Yeah.
we've got a quarry just down the
Yep,
road.
got it.
But George looks at things like that and sees how the growth has to meld in with the entire infrastructure.
You gotta have public utilities.
Yeah.
Water and sewer.
Yeah, how are you going to get services out there to them? And I really don't think that if you start just grabbing a handful of money and throwing it at a particular entity, instead of encouraging the tourism, or encouraging people to take a look at this particular area, or encouraging, the expansion of the smaller towns, they'll expand as they're ready. If they're not ready, they're not going to expand, no matter how much money you put under their nose. But what we're doing right now, what we've been doing, was to expand the advertisement of the area, not just the area of Winnebago County, but the area of each one of the towns as needed. And where they can't find their needs, they reallocate, and that's how that works. Now, I don't know where you're gonna come up with a matching grant system that is going to allow people to build out or build their houses from it, or something like a Habitat for Humanity to take a block of money from us and then go ahead and buy some land and start building small houses. That doesn't seem like a real appropriate thing without first having the infrastructure or being able to offer the services and have the people there that can hold it.
Yeah, I think to me, it's not the type of project that concerns me. $170,000 seems like a lot of money, but George, that goes really quick,
Oh, yeah.
right? How do we get that?
2.9 million.
Right. Number one, how do we get the biggest impact out of those dollars? And number two, when I look at the counties across Wisconsin and the net new construction growth, we're not on the top of the list. So how do I get us When I look at Winnebago County as a whole, how do I get us to do better in that division? I mean, the one county that is always below us is Milwaukee, but where did they grow? Up? I don't think there's much for them to expand. And that's what we rely on for our tax basis, net new construction at the county level. So that was the only reason I wanted to
No,
pose the
yeah.
question. Yep.
It's a challenge.
Tom, you have some?
And I don't want to disagree with any of you, but I'm just gonna use Armor, which I am not in that township, I do represent it, but that. Out there, the township has grown out so much, my grandmother said at one time, Armor will be joining, Oshkosh, and they surely are. And you talk about roads, they got some of the best roads in their subdivisions in this, and I won't say 21, but they're subdivisions. They are a third part of the fire department and all this and that, but. How are they gonna keep on going if they've gotta have somebody on board to go ahead and draw all this stuff and that up? I agree with you guys, but still here you got, I'm gonna just say that one in particular, growing like mad, and if you don't give them something to keep on growing, I don't know how they're going to, if they gotta put another staff member on there. I can't foresee it going on.
George, how long did it take us before we brought in an engineer to do our in-house engineering?
Oh, heck, guess, I've been here 31 years, it's been probably, I don't know, 50, 100 years before we got an engineer. We just hired a public works director.
Do we wanna keep doing that? 50,
We
100
have
years,
to.
make them wait?
We're way behind. You got to do, I mean, and stormwater is one of the major problems we all face. We're spending millions of dollars on stormwater pond. We didn't want to do that. That's a requirement from the DNR and the EPA to do that. So that's what's increasing high housing costs dramatically. I don't know, there's no solution to that one.
And then I go.
You're not arguing, you're adding to the
Yeah, no,
discussion.
That's valuable. But, I mean, we have to hire more police officers. Again, I mentioned that issue about having to cover 10 and 440 and 41 now. We have to do that now because the county sheriff stepped away from that.
Well,
That's, we have to hire more.
Let's not get into that.
But it's costly.
Yep.
It's very costly.
um,
I understand.
Yes, I had just one final comment, if you don't mind.
Yeah, please.
So this discussion is really good, and I think part of what this is about is how do we define economic development, right? So what is it that we do as an IDB that supports economic development? Is housing, something that's like, you could say virtually anything is related to economic development. There's no question about that. But what is our core mission as the IDB? And so I think maybe revisiting that, drilling down into what that is important. On this whole staff question, I totally got both sides of that issue. And I remember when we went through this in 2012. And part of the reason why we required the staff is, as Jerry said, we were getting some requests that we just did not feel was really supporting economic development. And I think the staff requirement was kind of an easy proxy for making sure that we got more high quality, more appropriate requests. Now, there's other ways that we could do that. There's no question. We could put some different criteria around it instead of staff, that communities have to show what it is that they're doing and that it's actually related to economic development. That would certainly be an option. Staff is not kind of the end all be all answer to the question. It's just the answer that we came up with, 10 plus years ago.
Yeah.
We have to put together applications that show how we're gonna utilize the funds.
Yeah.
And we weren't getting that from some communities.
Yeah, and we do require a somewhat of an itemized list from each of the communities that are requesting funds to indicate what they're going to use the dollars for and make sure that the board agrees that it's that they're acceptable and.
Do you have a list that goes out to each one of the entities, each one of the towns?
Yeah.
That
Yeah, we all
tells
do that.
them what they
Yes.
can include.
Yes. We George.
Yeah, we get an
Yeah, we send
application,
that out
we fill it out,
every
we
year.
mail it back to Jerry, and you all get copies. We all
Can
do
you
it.
add to that list
It says eligible project brochures, marketing materials,
Yeah.
seed money for economic development, studies directly related to economic
But
development,
not housing,
other promotional activities, interaction with business prospects,
right?
funding of administrative activities and positions.
Yeah.
Membership dues, participate in economic development, other marketing, economic development efforts designed to enhance business. That's pretty wide open, pretty.
Detailed.
You could almost argue any way you spend your money, you could fit into one of those.
That was the plan, but no, you can't do signs, you can't do.
Yeah,
That's what we get.
in the end, it was always up to the IDB's
Right.
discretion as to whether a particular application was starting to run astray from,
We did that even this year.
you know, from that set of
Mhm.
policies and. You know, some of it isn't, cut and dry, you know, I mean, you know, you have to. Have to look at each and every application, on its own merits, but.
We didn't do a presentation.
So, you know, we can certainly, you know, as we can go up behind the scenes and kind of come up with some ideas on any potential changes if the board wants wants me to come back in with some ideas and, you know, I could do that. Otherwise, it's really up to this board, but how you want to move ahead with this. One thing, I do need to point out is that we do have, you know, the 2024 program that we've been doing here now. You know, I do need to get information out to each and every one of the communities to, because we are in that cycle again for 2024 for the funding, economic development funding program here.
Yeah.
So I need to move ahead with that for 2024. I don't, you know, I think we need to consider that, whatever change we make may have to, we have to look at more 2025, you know. I don't know what you think about that, but that's where we are. So,
I would,
you know, but it's up to this board whether we even wants to proceed with the $24. I mean, it's really up to you guys.
and I see this, short term, long term. I think short term, I think this year, we status quo, but instead of the ITBEC and the OCBB, we just allocate that, those extra dollars into the municipalities per capita. Maybe we revisit whether they have to have staff or not. We could do that this year, but I would like us as a group to workshop and maybe invite a couple of these municipalities or towns in to have the entire year to have a discussion of what our role is and what we want to do on that. So I think it's two separate answers. And I really appreciated today's discussion and the viewpoints given. But I'd like to expand that more and I'd rather have that be done by this body, and inviting maybe a couple of the municipalities in than Jerry having you work on it, on your own.
Yeah.
Do you have a way of a questionnaire that goes out that asks questions like how many people do you have working in the office, or how many engineers have you got
No,
tied
no.
into your project?
no,
Anything
not
like that?
not to that detail. We just, we have a chart that basically asks for, given all the eligible criteria
Yeah,
that
there's a list
Bob
of them.
kind of,
There's a form that goes on and has the
Right.
criteria on here, and they can check off this or this or that.
yeah, and they need to indicate how much of the dollars are going to go to this activity and then that activity. So
Would it
they,
be helpful to ask those questions in advance, or just to, you know, get a feel for what you know, add to the list of projects?
well, you know, you can add whatever detail you'd like, I guess, you know, to the form. It's,
Do we have to show a budget? We have to, I mean, it's, I've been pretty detailed in mine.
yeah, I mean,
Most communities do.
most of the recipient communities
Where
that
it's
that have to come in and with a plan on how they're gonna
Yeah.
expend dollars for that year. They need to come in with a fairly, you know,
What's the project?
you know,
What you doing?
really detailed itemization and how they're,
You saw, you saw.
I've seen yours. You know, and typically, you know, and I think overall, that's really not the overall question. It's more of, you know, the criteria as they're set up currently. Are we leaving anyone out? And are we leaving out some of the rural areas? Are we,
That sounds like.
you know, those are really some of the bigger questions here that I think, why John wanted to bring it forward, really. And I, you know, and are there ways that we can be, allocate the dollars differently? And I think that's part of the discussion, because I think the information that we are getting from the recipient communities, I mean, it's good information. You know, they need to detail how they use the dollars the prior year and how they're gonna use it next year. So that's always been good information. It's,
And we all do a presentation too.
yeah, I mean, so,
I think that I kind of want to point out is, I'm gonna ask Tricia a question here. This last meeting, we said, well, you can't use it for housing. It says here, residential projects or programs ineligible. Is housing good for economic development?
You know, it's kind of like what we've said, like, you can make everything be good for economic
Sure,
development, right? I mean, right now, we target what's our key barriers to employment. Employment, right now, we're in a market where we're chasing people for jobs, not jobs for people. That may change in the future, probably not for a long time as we're projecting right now. So for the foreseeable future, right now, we're chasing people for jobs, which means we have more jobs than we have people. So what are our barriers to having the people we need? Housing is one of them. Childcare is another one. Transportation is another one. You know, so that's how these things do tie back into economic development. I think it's up to, you know, this group, like you said, to say, what are the priorities or what are the, you know, kind of what are the key things that we want these funds to be heading towards. We see housing as an important piece because I could spend millions of dollars marketing our area as a great place to live, but there's nowhere to live. So every employer I talk to still needs people. Yeah, every employer needs people. There's very few that are, you know, there's a few of them that are, you know, starting to kind of assess, but I mean, every growth plan right now is contingent on more staff.
Yes.
Did I answer your question?
I think so.
Okay.
Thank you.
My question, how do you subsidize housing? I mean, you just start giving away free land? I mean, some communities have done that, other parts of the country. You start subsidizing the contractors, that would be a nightmare, in my opinion, because which ones do you give it to? Or do you just give it to I mean, there are programs where the homeowners get special low interest loans. That's not unreasonable. That's done in some parts of the country, even here. We'd accept money right away for housing. That'd be great.
I agree, but I think a revolving loan fund would be the only way to
Yes,
do
I
that.
agree.
It has to be paid back. I am
loans.
not a fan of
No, I
granting
agree.
for housing, but some kind of revolving loan, especially if interest rates get higher.
Oh, yeah.
We
Sure.
may have to step in, otherwise we're really gonna be hurting.
Yep.
But I agree, money has to
Yeah.
get paid back.
Yeah, it's got to do that. Some way.
Can I ask the history a little bit more of the nineties when solid waste came in, and what was that used for? Was that for?
yeah, it's,
Loan
if
funds.
somebody on the board know that the IDB has a revolving loan fund program. And for many years during the eighties and a good part of the nineties, it was used very successfully.
Mhm.
You know, it was basically, low interest loan, you know, below market rates.
Yep.
For, interest rates on loans.
Excuse me.
The loans were allocated directly to communities. And the communities took that loan and reallocated it to a business that needed those funds.
But we were on the hook.
Right.
But the municipalities were actually taking out the loans. Municipalities are on the hook. The agreements, the loan agreements are set up directly with the municipalities.
On the hook and also counted toward your debt limit, correct?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Ultimately.
yeah, that was an issue.
So we had one, it worked out, but it was, we finally paid the money back to the county and then we took the loan out. We took care of the loan. And it finally worked.
So over the
Yeah.
years, I mean, so they,
It did work.
yeah, and it was over, the IDB loaned out to municipalities over $10 million over about a 20-year period for projects in their communities, you know, for businesses. Some of the communities used it because they were putting in infrastructure, you know, to set up an industrial park. So they had to put infrastructure in that industrial park. Others went directly to businesses that wanted to expand in their communities, you know, an established business that was growing and they needed an investment of cash to move ahead and do their expansions. So, you know, and so it was actually fairly heavily used for a period of time.
How long has it been since it's been used?
The last loan issue was in 2015. Yeah, but it was, yeah, the interest rate started. But even that loan, I mean, the real busy activity with the program really wasn't much beyond 2010.
No.
There was a couple of loans after that again. I think the last one was in 2015.
The municipalities lost desire to take out these funds.
Yeah, they,
Couldn't work for them anymore.
It was on the debt limit, you know, they were concerned about that and. You know, the whole interest rate model started to flounder because interest rates changed and. Because early on, some of you remember, the interest rates back in the day were pretty high, were very high. So we were offering, this board was offering.
4%.
Yeah, we were at half the prime.
The prime, yeah, half prime.
Rate and so it was a source of available funds and the dollars could be turned around fairly quickly and that's what some of the. You know, the businesses liked, and the communities liked, but over time that model just wasn't working anymore.
No, it didn't.
So now, to add to the story, we are coming in, at the next meeting with, you know, as you remember, we've been talking about another proposed loan program that, is or set up to replace that program I was just talking about. And then I'm sorry, John, the solid waste part of it. The program was so heavily used at one point in the nineties that the IDB ran out of money to loan out. So there was a request made of the solid waste, but the solid waste had all these landfill closure dollars that weren't,
I went to a meeting, it was a day.
and the theory there too was that it was better for the landfill because more economic development means more garbage. So that was the theory there.
Right, not the main objective, yeah.
And so the IDB pumped on, I think it was over 400 grand into the program, and there were loans issued out, which were more strictly solid waste dollars, but they used the IDB's criteria. Or, you know, was set up with the IDB's approval and so, but that's how. But then eventually solid waste needed their dollars for landfill closure purposes and. You know, and et cetera, but. So anyways, that's how that.
I guess, to the chairman, my question for you or asking you and the rest of this, board is, are we willing to sit down and have a workshop to kind of discuss that? Would that be enough to facilitate an entire meeting? 'Cause it seems like it was a good discussion. I think there's a lot of things to consider.
Well, I certainly would. Okay, then we go ahead and discuss this further at a meeting.
Okay.
soon after, and how long out. We had one in December. You know, maybe a couple of months and everything.
We've got
We're gonna have to have another meeting, probably right after Thanksgiving. You know, between there and mid-December, so we have to have another meeting. Because we have this other this loan program we've been discussing, and we got the loan manual and the contract all ready to go, but. We gotta,
The program that
Yeah.
you were
Yeah.
responsible,
Yeah.
you were,
I see that happen.
did that ever,
The contract is fine. We have one issue with the manual, which we're hoping.
I want to touch base. with you.
That's what I was gonna say.
so we'll.
So we'll have another meeting, we can certainly add a discussion point to the next meeting. And then maybe sometime after that, just have a specific,
Yeah, because of Thanksgiving meeting that.
Yep.
so people can bring their ideas, thoughts for it at the next meeting, and then we can, you know,
Yep.
gain more.
And I think we could focus on some of those short-term things, because I know the town of Amro's money is still on the table, and that has not been allocated. So maybe if we discuss the need of staff and other things, we could still get that out yet this year. Yeah. So, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, anybody have anything else on this side? All right. Great discussion. Next item is the next meeting. And Jerry's going to do another survey.
Yeah,
When we
yeah.
all get together
And,
sometime
maybe
after,
we'll come up with a.
end of November.
Yeah, yeah,
And well, after Thanksgiving, right?
yeah. And I'll make sure. I think we get that all in,
Next month or so, within the next month.
yes, looking at maybe the last week of November or first week of December, somewhere in there. First week,
So,
you could go as late as probably maybe the second week of December.
what's the days as they're open?
Okay, is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion made in second, all in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned.
You can, put this in the back.